Alright guys, so a little birdie told me that you guys wanted a easy, noob-friendly, accessible, inexpensive Guardian build to play here. So, just like my other videos, which are just all like easy, noob-friendly build guides, this is going to be the Hammer Symbols Guardian. The whole point of this build is basically to use the hammer, the auto attack chain of hammer drops a symbol, and we're going to utilize that symbol to basically buff ourselves, debuff our enemy, heal ourselves, and carry us through their encounters. So, as you can see, this is the Champion Avatar Balthazar Hero Power or Hero Point Challenge. It's not a like super hard thing in the game as in terms of like compared to everything that there is in the game, but in terms of solo content and hero points, this is one of the harder ones that people kind of tend to die on a lot, especially newer players who don't really know what they're doing or how to interact with the boss's health mechanic here, which is going to do right now. Also the burning. The Champion Avatar Balthazar just puts out a decent amount of damage, and as you can see with the showcase there, I don't think my health dropped below like 90% one time. And all I really did was use my hammer swing auto attack, some hammer skills to break his break bar, and that's about it. So how does this work? How did I do that? Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to kill him here really quick. Then I'll show you guys the build. It is all utilizing just cheap exotics. Items you can buy straight off the trading post. I don't think a single item in the build list here is more than like a gold. The food that I'm using is extremely inexpensive too. I don't think my food is even running right now. But it's like the cheapest food on the market. So I'll showcase that to you guys here in 1 second once this boss goes down. Use my shout here, get my quickness, and I'm basically just auto attacking. As you can see, I have permanent might, I'm not actually at 25 stacks here, but I've got permanent might, permanent 25 stacks of vulnerability on the target, permanent fury, permanent resolution, permanent protection, permanent swiftness, which doesn't really matter, but it's just nice to be fast. It's always nice to be fast in any build you're running. So how is that happening? Let's get into it here. So the gear is clerics stats, actually. This does work off of a boosted character as well. If you wanted to do like your level 80 character boost, you bought the expansion or you bought the game or whatever, and you're using your boost and you got the free celestial stats, that will also work just fine. This is cleric stats. The reason for that is I like to run this build as kind of like a healer for my friends sometimes too. And the cleric stacking up that healing power just makes those heals nice and chunky. But the celestial stats work really well too. In this example, we're using clerics, which is power, toughness, and healing power. Extremely survivable set with the rune, superior rune of the fireworks. So that is a power and boon duration percentage rune set. The superior rune of fireworks is like 80 something silver on the trading post. So again, not expensive. We're using a hammer for sure because the whole build revolves around hammer. As for the secondary weapon, you can really run whatever you want. We're not going to be swapping to our offhand very often. So these sigils of energy are kind of redundant. They don't really need to be there. I just have them on this set because I like the spirit sigils of energy, and I run this for world vs. world a lot. These items for world vs. world a lot, so they're there for that. But I choose to run a staff just so that I have a ranged option. If I ever want to do something with a group, I need to tag enemies from range. I like to run a staff. Scepter or something like that would work too, but I just prefer staff myself. Everything is the clerics. These are actually ascended just because I forgot to buy exotic trinkets and necklaces and stuff. I crafted and ran a level 78 backpack just to kind of offset that a little bit, but it's not really going to make a difference. The exotic items are going to do you great. As for the relic, I'm using the relic of the trooper in this example because we're running 4 shouts. The trooper gives you some Condi cleanse and some group support, but honestly, there's a lot of relics you could run that are noob friendly and accessible and core game relics. What I will say is eventually, as kind of like a down the road goal, I would recommend you acquire yourself a relic of rivers. Relic of Rivers is going to give us more regen, and it's going to give us Alacrity, which gives us better uptime on our abilities. The cooldown goes down with Alacrity, so I recommend picking up a Relic of Rivers. It's just a nice relic to have, and if you play Guardian a lot, you'll end up wanting a Relic of Rivers for some other builds as well. So it's just a good relic to have. But I use Relic of Trooper for this example because it's accessible to you guys. The food that I'm running, which isn't even on right now, is super cheap. I think it's like the cheapest food you can buy. It's soul pastries. It is just concentration and power. Easy, enough said. That's kind of what this build runs around, is concentration, power, and healing power. So there you go. Okay, moving on to the build itself. The only two necessary trait lines are going to be Zeal and Honor. They're the ones that interact with our symbols the most, which is kind of what the whole point is auto-attacking with our hammer, dropping the symbol from our third auto-attack chain there, and interacting with those trait lines for the symbol. How this works is you cast a lesser symbol of resolution when you are struck below the health threshold. Cool. We're not going to go down very often, but if you do go down to below 75% health, you're going to get that symbol. Going to give you 6 pulses. It's going to give you all the interactions that symbols give based off your traits. So it's just another way to get a symbol, basically. Definitely the best one here. I used to run Zealous Scepter for more might uptime, which, yeah, it's good. The might uptime's good. I think I prefer Wrathful Spirit. Aegis grants boons when it ends. You've got a lot of access to Aegis from your Advance and your Virtue of Courage. So you're just going to have a more increased duration on Fury and Resolution there. But Zealous Scepter would work too. I think actually all three of these would work fine too. The damage increase on Burning Foes is fine as well. So all three of these options are good. You can play around with them kind of however you want. Symbols inflict vulnerability on foes. Deal increased strike damage to vulnerable foes. You're going to be stacking up that 25 stacks of vulnerability very easily, so getting that extra 25% damage vulnerability stacked up is really nice and really important for solo builds specifically. Having access to lots of might and vulnerability in a solo build is really important because that condition and boon combination together is a lot of DPS gain from one character. Okay, Zealous Blade is probably the best one here. Your power is increased. We're not using a great sword, so we're not getting the additional power, but we're getting that just flat 120 extra power. Condition damage based on your power, not so good. We're not stacking burning. And while you have Fury, your attacks inflict vulnerability. That's good, but we're going to be getting to 25 stacks anyways, and since 25 stacks of vulnerability is the max, gaining more stacks after 25 does nothing for you. So this allows you to stack the vulnerability quicker, but it doesn't actually add any DPS once the vulnerability has stacked to 25, making Zealous Blade a slightly better option overall. Symbols deal increased strike damage. Awesome. We're going to be stacking symbols a lot with our hammer. Just gives us more damage overall with our symbols. This one's very important. Symbolic Avenger. Your strike damage is increased whenever your symbols hit a foe. So again, we're stacking those symbols. We're getting the Symbolic Avenger stacked very quickly, and we're always going to have it maxed out. So we're always going to get 10% damage increase total with 5 stacks at 2% damage each. All right, Honor. We're going to gain Vigor at the end of our dodge roll. That just lets us dodge more because Vigor gives you more endurance regeneration while you have it. So it just kind of cycles into itself, having more dodges, etc. Symbol. Create a symbol that gives protection to you and your allies whenever you cast a healing skill on a 20-second internal cooldown. The heal we're using is a 20-second cooldown heal. That means whenever we press our heal, we're getting our symbol from this trait. It just feeds into the symbol synergies from our Zeal trait line. The end of your dodge roll heals nearby allies. That includes yourself. It's a pretty chunky heal because we have cleric stats, so when we're dodging, not only is dodge an invulnerability frame, so you're not taking any damage when you're dodging, you're also going to get a heal, so it just adds a lot of survivability, solo survivability. Great, we'll take it. Grant might to nearby allies when you critically strike. We don't have any critical strike chance in our stats, but we do have lots of uptime on Fury and lots of uptime on Resolution, which is going to give us critical strike chance once we get down to the Radiance trait line here, which is why I recommend Radiance as a third trait line. If you don't want to run that, I don't recommend Pure of Heart, but I would say, even though it's actually a pretty good heal, but you don't really need the heal from Pure of Heart. If you're running like a healer build and you're playing with friends, this isn't a bad option. but neither is Honorable Staff. I like to run Staff in the offhand, which means that I gain the recharge duration reduction from the Honorable Staff trait here for staves, and I also gain the concentration, which helps with some of that boon uptime. Your Virtue Skill 2 passive also regenerates endurance. Paired with the Vigorous Precision, we're going to have a lot of Vigor. We're going to have a lot of endurance generation from our Virtue Skill 2 passive. We're almost never going to press our Virtue Skill 2 or our Virtue Passive 2. So that's always going to be up, which means we're always going to be regenerating endurance. So we're always going to have a dodge. We're basically just going to be dodging all the time. It's really great, which is another really good thing about this like solo build is solo survivability is really high with this build. Symbols are improved and heal allies. This is a big reason why we're taking Honor in general. It increases the radius of our symbols, allowing them to hit more enemies in like an AoE scenario. It also makes them last 2 seconds longer, which means there's more ticks for the vulnerability and might and things like that to proc. And it heals us now. So stacking symbols on top of each other means that we heal ourselves and our allies if they're standing on our symbols. Awesome. All right, now the reason why I recommend Radiance, not only because it's a core trait line, which means you don't have to have any elite specializations unlocked. You know, you can just straight up run this build and it's very effective on its own. Radiance gives us this resolution, critical strike, and might package, which is really useful. A lot of DPS builds for Guardian run this, and this is going to be the same reason why I recommend it for this build. Gain a light aura and blind nearby foes when you activate Virtue Skill 1. We don't really care about that whole lot, but it does help with break bar damage. Blindness does affect break bars a little bit. And with the trait line here, it's going to reset every time you kill a foe, so you can keep spamming your Virtue Skill 1, your Virtue of Justice, often with this build in AoE scenarios. Gain resolution when using a heal skill. Okay, so our heal becomes an extremely overloaded button that we're going to press basically whenever we can. So we're going to get this resolution uptime, 11.14 or 11 and a quarter seconds of resolution on a 20-second internal cooldown means more than 50% uptime on resolution just for hitting our heal alone. Litany of Wrath is a really busted heal on its own, and then when you tack on that resolution uptime, which is going to play into the rest of our traits, and the symbol drop from the heal skill, we're just getting a lot out of our heal. We're going to be pressing it all the time, pretty much off cooldown. We already touched on that. Strike damage dealt is increased while you have resolution. We're going to have a permanent resolution uptime, which means we're always going to have an additional 10% strike damage. Awesome. That combined with the Symbolic Avenger is a lot of damage boost from just those two things alone. Attacks against burning foes have an increased chance to critically strike, kind of whatever, but we're always going to have burning on our foes anyways as a Guardian, so it's just a nice little bonus there. And then we do gain an additional 150% or 150 ferocity, flat ferocity. When we crit, our crits are going to hit harder. We do have decent crit chance because of what I said before with our Fury and our resolution uptime, so let's get into that here. Resolution increases your chances to critically strike by 25%, just like Fury. So we basically turn resolution into Fury, but better, because the resolution also has additional bonuses. And in addition to that, every second that we have resolution on ourselves, we also will be gaining a stack of might. For 8.5 seconds, we gain might when we have resolution on ourselves. So that increases our might uptime. That's one of the reasons why a lot of solo builds, especially power builds, but hybrid builds like Celestial, will take Radiance just to get that resolution uptime and the might and critical strike chance, etc. So that's the build. I'll quickly touch on the utilities. We're 100% running Litany of Wrath every time, all the time. It's just a really, really, really good heal for soloing, and because it's 20-second cooldown, I think it's the only 20-second cooldown, I think. Yep, don't make me eat my words. Yep, it is. Okay, so it perfectly aligns with the Healer's Resolution trait and the Lesser Symbol of Protection trait. So basically Litany of Wrath every time, all the time. Stand Your Ground is just a really, really good stun break. It also gives us more resolution uptime, feeding into our Righteous Instincts here, and it gives us stability. It also gives stability to your allies. So Stand Your Ground is one of the best utility buttons in the game across all specs. Very, very good button. And in PvE, it's a really low cooldown. 24-second cooldown is very low, so you have a really good uptime on stability and resolution. It's a stun break, etc. Okay? Save Yourselves is, I run this because it gives us more access to resolution and fury. So with Save Yourselves, that is kind of how we're gaining our permanent fury and resolution uptime. It's also a stun break, even though we're going to kind of be using it as not a stun break. When it comes up off cooldown and you maybe get knocked down or stunned or something like that, it lets it act as a stun break as well. So second stun break. Advance we're running because swiftness, permanent swiftness uptime is just really nice. It's a nice quality of life to have when you're running solo. This is how Guardian does it. You don't need any other weapons or traits or anything. You just slap on advance, permanent swiftness. It also gives you access to Aegis. So 2 charges of this skill lets you have Aegis twice on demand whenever you want it. Very, very, very nice. It also plays into the Wrathful Spirit trait line here. Aegis grants boons when it ends, more Fury and Resolution uptime. So when your Aegis gets used, when it blocks an attack, you'll gain access to those boons as well. So Advance is just a very nice ability. The other thing to note is all these abilities, these 3 shouts, not your Litany of Wrath and your Elite, but these 3 core shouts, they are instant cast. That means there's no cast time when you use them. So importantly, they do not interrupt your hammer auto attack chain, which we never want to be doing. We always want to get to our 3rd chain of our hammer auto attack and drop that symbol. So having these utility skills be instant cast is just very, very nice. There's other instant cast abilities you could run. Smite Condition, your meditations here, those are instant cast. Things like your signets, some of those are instant cast and things like that. So there's other options you would have. There's even like a different shout, like Hold the Line you could run. But Hold the Line doesn't really give anything. It gives regen out to our allies and protection, but we have permanent protection from our symbol anyway. So I recommend taking Save Yourselves for sure. I'd flip those around accidentally. Save Yourselves and Advance is just what I run personally. Our Elite, this is definitely what I would recommend as well. Feel My Wrath. It gives you quickness, which just gets you kind of a boost on your hammer auto attack chain and just gets some symbols out faster. This is not a necessity. It does give you more Fury uptime too, which can be nice, but Signet of Courage is actually pretty good. It gives you more passive heals. It also gives you another stun break. If you want another stun break, you can work Signet of Courage into your build. And then Renewed Focus gives you invulnerability, which can be nice as well. I don't really think this is needed in PvE. I would recommend either Feel My Wrath or Signet of Courage for sure for core. If you're running Elite specs, a lot of the Elite spec Elite abilities are superior to Core Guardian. Since we're kind of done with this, I'll kind of showcase what I would recommend. So basically, because I said that Zeal and Honor are the 2 important ones for the hammer build to work really, really well, that means that we can take an Elite spec and not really lose any power out of the hammer build. So we are going to lose the resolution package, but if you wanted to go like Firebrand, you do gain permanent access to quickness. We can, instead of running Save Yourselves, we can run the Mantra of Potence, which gives us quickness uptime. We can run these 2 traits, which gives us more quickness uptime. So you can get permanent quickness if you go Firebrand route. You can get a lot of more mobility and swiftness, which could make you maybe drop Advance if you go Willbender. Willbender gives you access to a lot of swiftness and mobility, which is pretty cool. Some more damage, stacking damage buffs, which could give you more damage access. So Willbender could be cool if you wanted to be a Willbender. And then also Dragon Hunter. Dragon Hunter could be really cool if you went Dragon Hunter and you like that kind of bow guardian theme. You could, instead of taking a staff, you could rock, say, like a bow, which would be pretty sweet. So really, the point that I'm making is because these are the only 2 trait lines that are really important to the hammer build, you can run whatever Elite spec you want. So basically, guys, I recommend you try it out. I hope that helped you guys out and kind of set you on a path to a fun, really accessible Guardian build for you guys to try out as new players or veteran players who never tried it. So I'll catch you guys in the next build video. See you later.